Hello everyone, my name is Elena. Thank you for joining me today for storytelling. Today I will be sharing with you Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid. My intended audience will be 8 to 12-year-olds. Do you guys know how sometimes things don't seem very fair in life? How you put a lot of work into something and then someone else ends up taking all the credit? Has it ever happened to you? Well, in today's story, a very young girl experiences something very similar, and that is The Little Mermaid. Now, I know you guys are thinking, I've seen the movie and it has a happy ending. Well, yes, that's true. But the version that I'm about to tell is a little bit different, and it actually predates the movie. It goes like this. A long time ago, in the deepest part of the ocean, was a beautiful kingdom made out of coral and amber windows, and a roof made out of mussel shells that would move with the waves. It was beautiful. There, a sea king lived with his 6 daughters and his mother. His wife had passed away a few years ago, so she was helping out. His daughters were very beautiful and very smart, but the most special of all was the youngest. She was just gorgeous. And unlike her sisters, she wasn't very loud or outgoing. She was actually quiet and withdrawn, but she was very, very curious. Often she would bombard her grandmother with questions about what humans were like. You see, human beings were her fascination. She would ask her just everything she could come up with. And her grandmother would sometimes get annoyed with her a little bit, but grandkids. And then she would also be a bit jealous of her older sisters because you see, in mermaid culture, when you turn 15, you get to rise up out of the ocean and you could sit at a rock under the moonlight and just watch human beings. It might sound a little boring to us, but to mermaids, it's a very big deal. And the Little Mermaid just couldn't wait. But sometimes you just get so frustrated and so sad that she couldn't do it yet. And she just wished that she could cry, but unfortunately, mermaids can't cry. They have no tears. So for 5 years, she waited until finally the day came. She was so excited. She couldn't even sleep the night before. That day, as soon as they told her that it was okay, she swam up right to a rock. And she was looking around, just eagerly, just taking everything in. And she saw a ship off of the shore, and she swam right up to it. She looked through the window, and she saw that people were celebrating something. There was cake, so she quickly realized that it was someone's birthday. And there he was, this handsome man, which she knew was a prince because he was just gallant and polite, and everybody kept saying prince. So she was just mesmerized. She was just looking, and she lost track of time until she started noticing that a storm was setting in. Now, to her, it wasn't a big deal. You know, she lives out there. She knows what it's like. But to human beings, it could become quite dangerous. So, just as she was thinking that, a huge wave broke over the ship and turned it over. People were just swimming for their lives. I mean, it was just really rocky weather. And of course she was worried. She was worried about everyone, but she was very, very worried for the prince. So risking her own life and safety, she went in search for him until she finally found him. He was unconscious, but he was alive. So she took him in her arms and let the waves take them into safety. By the morning, they were in a safe harbor near a church or maybe a temple, and she was just there with him, waiting for him to regain consciousness. They were there for a while, and soon she heard voices of like young girls, and she didn't want to leave the prince, but she couldn't let others see her. And truth be told, they could probably be of greater help than she could, since she didn't even have legs. So she quickly went into the sea and she hid herself behind foam, just watching over to see what was going on. You know, she wanted to make sure he was okay. And a young girl went up to the prince that was laying down, and she quickly asked for help. She started screaming for help. So soon all these people came over and just took the prince into the church. After that day, she would keep visiting the harbor in hopes that she would see the prince, but every day was just full of disappointment. She never saw him. She hadn't told anyone about this, not one of her sisters, but she was just so depressed about this that she ended up telling one of her sisters, and sisters quickly, all of them knew. And actually, they had actually told all their friends, which turned out to be okay because one of the friends knew the prince and knew where he lived. So they all took her to where the prince lived, and she was very happy. And every day she would go and visit him. She, of course, without him knowing. And she started to really like human beings, and she started to really appreciate them, and she wanted to be a part of that. She wanted to live amongst them. So when she would go back home, she would ask her grandmother, about their mortality. She was very curious about that. And she was told that unlike mermaids, they don't live 300 years. Their lives are a lot shorter. And unlike them, they don't turn into foam when they die. They actually have a soul that lives on forever. Mermaids didn't have souls at all. She really wanted that. But she was also told that the only way to get a soul was by earning the love of a human being through marriage. And, well, she didn't know of any way. Her grandmother didn't know of any way that was possible, so she just had to deal with it. But she didn't want to deal with it. So one night, she decided to go visit the sea witch. Now, visiting the sea witch was no easy feat. And she actually went through so many dangerous situations just to reach the sea witch. She was scared, but she knew she had to do something, right? And when she reached the sea witch immediately knew that the Little Mermaid wanted legs, and that the Little Mermaid wanted to have a soul, and that she wanted to live with human beings. So the Little Mermaid didn't even get to say anything. She's just like, I know what you want, but listen to this. So this is what would happen, okay? If in theory you really want this is what would happen. I will make you a potion, and you will have to take this potion up to dry land. You would take it, and then your tail would split into 2 parts, which would become legs. It sounds all great and dandy, but you would experience the most excruciating pain that you have ever felt. It will feel like really sharp blades are just slashing your legs, just slashing right through you. And also, it would come with a price. I want your voice. It's a very beautiful voice, and I want it. The Little Mermaid agreed. She really wanted this opportunity. And so the sea witch whipped up some magic potion and cut off her tongue. So the Little Mermaid took her potion, and she found a dry spot of land near the prince's palace. She took it, and just as she was told, she felt the most excruciating pain that she had ever felt. It hurt so bad. And then when she tried to get up, her legs were just hurting so bad, and she knew that this is how it was going to be. And just as how she was thinking that this was the pain that she was going to have to live through, she looks up and she sees the prince. He was just really shocked to see her there. Like, there's this girl here he had never seen, and she's not even wearing clothes. And when he asked her where she came from and who she is, the Little Mermaid couldn't answer anything because she didn't have a voice anymore. But he took her with him into the palace and covered her up and everything. And everyone that saw her was just amazed of her beauty and just of her grace when walking. Little did they know that she was actually going through great pain. She ended up living in the palace with them all, and everyone just loved her. She was so charming, and the prince just thought she was the greatest thing that had ever happened to him. He even requested to have a velvet pillow outside of his door for her to just, sleep there whenever she wanted to. She became his best friend, and he would confide in her. And he told her that one time he was involved in a shipwreck, and this amazing, beautiful girl had saved him, but he had never seen her again. And she actually reminded him of her, but how could it be? What are the odds? But hearing this, the Little Mermaid was just so happy. She was really, really excited. The prince told her that he loved her, and that if it wasn't for his parents wanting him to marry this princess from like a neighboring kingdom, he would marry her. But tradition. Soon they all went into this trip to the neighboring kingdom to meet the princess that he was to wed. And the Little Mermaid was just hoping, she was just really hoping that this wouldn't work out so he could marry her. And unfortunately, when the prince meets the princess, he's just completely smitten, and he actually confuses her for his savior. He agrees immediately to marry her the next day. The Little Mermaid was just heartbroken. She was just absolutely heartbroken because she knew what this would mean to her. And she's gone through all of these things for him and for the love that she has for him, and now this. But just seeing him so happy, like, she just knew she had to be supportive. So she helped him with everything that she could for the wedding. And the following day, he had the most amazing wedding. She had to admit. And the princess was a good person too. She couldn't really say anything bad. When everyone went into their rooms after their wedding and night was starting to set in, she just hung out by the deck, and she just looked out into the sea and just thinking of what was going to happen to her. She was really sad. And just as she was looking out into sea, she sees her sisters. They were all coming. They were just all swimming really fast towards the ship. And they were all having like really funny haircuts. She'd never seen that style of haircut on them. And they tell her that they had cut off their hair in exchange for help to figure out how to save her. The sea witch had agreed to do a magic potion on them for a blade. Like they made this blade that would be able to make her go back into their family. And she was just really shocked about this because she couldn't believe that her sisters had done all of this for her. But hearing them about this blade really, it confused her, because what she had to do with this blade would be to stab the prince in the heart and let his blood reach her feet so that it could become a tail instead of legs. So the Little Mermaid took the blade and she tried. She went into the chambers, but she saw the couple and they looked so happy sleeping there, and she just couldn't do it. She loved him so much, and she really wanted him to be happy regardless of who he was with. I mean, it wasn't going to be her, and she didn't want to hurt him. So she just swam up. She just swam right into the ocean with the blade. She just threw herself there, waiting to be turned into foam. And she did. The Little Mermaid turned into foam. But the next day, she didn't feel death. She didn't feel death at all. She was really confused. Instead, when she looks up, she sees that she's surrounded by spirits. She really didn't understand this because mermaids don't have a soul. But as the spirits explained, they were told that sometimes creatures get a second chance to earn a soul after 300 years of good work. So since she had done good deeds while she was alive for the prince by not killing him and letting him be happy, she was given this opportunity to have a soul. Now, she was really happy because after 300 years, she would be able to have her soul. She wasn't going to be able to be with her family again, and she wasn't going to be able to be with the prince, but at least she would have a chance to live on forever. And that is how Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid ends.